Everyone
has a scar.
has a scar.
Has a scar.
Everyone has
a story.
Has a story.
Has a story.
Just recently, during my high school career, I've struggled with the pressures for sports and for other things like that, and I found my self-worth and the things that coaches and parents and friends have been putting on me instead of finding my worth in what God says what I really am. Personally, for me, I went through a short time of depression, and I was really into myself. I wasn't talking to my friends. I didn't find the joy in a lot of things that I once found joy in, and I kind of became a loner for a little bit, and it just kind of left me in a bad place, and I felt all alone. Didn't really feel like anyone was out there for me. Well, I would say definitely talk to someone about it. Don't keep all your feelings inside to yourself. I eventually decided to talk to someone about it and just empty my heart out to them, even though most guys don't want to share their feelings. You know, it's a good thing to do. And they've kind of really helped me realize that I am dearly loved. I'm surrounded by many people that love me, and now I've started to reconnect with everyone and just gotten back to my old self. And also just pray about it. Just realize that God is there to listen to you, and He wants to know you. He wants you to love Him, and because He loves you more than anything in the world.
When I first came to this church, it was really different than my old church. It was very big. There were so many people the first day I walked in. I was scared. I'm usually really happy. I'm a people person. I like having friends. I'm not used to walking into something without anyone. And especially on Sunday nights, I loved going to small group, but it was just weird in the beginning. And I didn't have anyone to eat dinner with in the beginning. I usually sat by myself. You know, you should want to go to church and you shouldn't want to feel left out, but I did. And I loved school. I loved every other activity I was in, but church was like, I just didn't want to go. It was just a really hard time, and I was scarred. And I just encourage people who are going through the problem I went through to try to talk to as many people as they can, and try to open up, go on choir tour, go on a retreat. You know, that's how I really got to know my friends better, is the retreat I went on, Breakthrough. You know, go on those things, interact, open up, talk about God. You know, you get closer to people when you talk about God in ways you didn't even know you could get close to someone. And pray, because I prayed a lot. I don't want anyone coming to church and feeling left out. That's not what God wanted. God wants everyone to feel loved and wanted, and He wants everyone to care for one another. And I really think that's what church is about. And I really think that people do try. And I just encourage people, if you see someone new you haven't seen, or even if you see someone that's been here for a year, like I was here for a year before I really became connected.
Scars that I've experienced in my life, leaving schools my freshman year and going to Father Ryan my sophomore year. I never really fit in with everyone at all, kind of like anyone at all. I tried to get involved. I went to, I did cheerleading, whatever, and I never felt comfortable with anyone. And so that kind of I started to feel really worthless. And then in order to kind of fix my problem, I tried self-destruction type of situations to be accepted by other people, drinking, etc. But I never really felt comfortable with it, and it wasn't really working. It was just getting worse. That was the year I also got involved in church, and at Breakthrough, and before that at Progressive Dinner, when I met my solid group of friends from church. I finally felt like I was comfortable around someone. They were good for me. So I went to Breakthrough with all that, and the last night I just heard, she said you can't fill your hole with friends, and that was just a very basic attack to me. I felt and so that night, I felt I heard, God, just telling me out of nowhere, just, you need to change schools. You need to go somewhere else. And I went to Father Ryan and just, instantly fell in love with it. I knew, when I got there, this is where I was supposed to be. This is where I could, live out my real self and, start over and be myself and be happy, finally. And then I had church to back that up. And since then, that's kind of, been when I've decided, that I want to live my life for God. I don't want to just, make a good life and just be happy. I want it to have a purpose behind it.
Some of the scars have been through academic pressure, the understanding that books come first before before social life or before sports do. I think in some ways it has scarred me in that I missed out on some social events, or I missed out on some opportunities to bond with the people around me, or to have a more diverse social life. I felt God's presence kind of in some interesting ways. I would some nights when I was coming back from football practice or from whatever I was doing that night, I would stop in at this particular place, and I would literally just yell and scream and get as mad as I possibly can at the creator of the universe. And that's kind of strange to look back on, but I wasn't getting mad at the fact that he had given me tough times, or that he had given me difficulty in my life. I was getting mad because I couldn't see what I was supposed to learn from the situation. More often than not, I would say something like, why are you doing this to me? Like, what am I supposed to learn? And almost immediately this thought would pop into the back of my head, like, well, I'm instilling some values in you, or I'm making you stronger, or something that was comforting, something that was definitely God's presence in my life.
Okay, when I entered high school, I really got set on the idea of going to college to become a professional dancer, and that was just my hope and my dreams, and that's just all I ever wanted to do. And so it was really hard because my parents didn't want to take me to visit any artistic colleges or anything, and they weren't very supportive in any way. But my mom finally came around, and she let me go to an audition in Atlanta for a summer intensive program. I went and I got in there, and I completely froze. I had no idea what was going on. I just forgot how to dance and was so overcome with nerves, and I was just really disappointed in myself. So when I got my rejection letter, basically my self-esteem just dropped really low. I just got into the state of I was worthless, and I really wasn't treating myself in the way that was pleasing to the Lord. And so I talked to some friends, and eventually I was brought out of my slump of, I guess you could say, depression. But I just know now that it's like I have more options than I was giving myself. I would say don't keep it a secret, and try not to isolate yourself. I needed to force myself to talk to people because being alone was just the worst thing I could do.
I think life is full of scars. I recently, about a year and a half ago, lost my mother. And then I also, in high school, was diagnosed and battled anorexia. Well, the reason I chose the two was because they're intertwined. My mother was so instrumental in me getting treatment for anorexia that to live life without her is also a constant reminder of my own battle with body image. They're the physical things that happen. So, hair loss, actually fainting a couple of times called attention to it. I think the scars are the fact that, you can't get away from it. So it's something to control, or it's something you can't control. But it's all about the support that you have. There are a few things that really helped me with dealing with anorexia specifically was the idea of accountability and family and friends. Really having deep friendships and deep people to hold you accountable is something that is very important that my scars have taught me. The other thing is counseling. I mean, to be able to talk to people about what actually is happening in your life is really important. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that really that you need help, and to have people in your life that you can turn to, whether they be professional or not, is something that really helped me. The hardest thing was actually acknowledging that you had a problem. Having a community was really important. Most of it has to do with control and the fact that you're striving to be something that you can't be. We're human, and that Jesus chose to be human himself to experience all the emotions and all the struggles we had. But yet, in the end, he's the only person who's walked this earth who is perfect. We are going to fall short every day. And being able to accept the fact that God gives us grace and God loves us and that we are created in God's image is something that is really powerful. And so being able to have those kinds of conversations where you could really be real and say, hey, I'm not perfect and I'm never going to be. So through conversations and through just experiencing God's grace every day, you feel those scars heal a little bit more.
In my
childhood, I've dealt with scars like alcoholism in my family, abuse in my family, suicide within my family and my friends, and divorce. Most of the abuse happened when I was younger, when I was around 3 until I was 10. A lot of it was physical, and after that, I used to come home from school and I was called names and stupid by my dad and dumb, and I would never have any friends, and school was kind of like a sanctuary for me. I always wanted to be there, and I always feel like this constant need to have everybody approve of me because I still feel some of my father's words in my head telling me that I'm not good enough. But as I got older, I think in the youth group I found a family and friends that I knew were there for me no matter what. One thing that I did too was I started to study the Bible and get into that. I would go online and Google Bible verses that would help me, like Bible verses about loss or Bible verses about abuse, and I would read these things that would just inspire me and uplift me. And even though I wasn't so good at focusing on prayer, studying the Bible was something that helped me. I would feel like a calmness over me. I would feel like even in the darkest of times, I would feel like it was going to be okay, and I saw a way out. When I finally did stand up to my dad a year ago before they got divorced, when I finally stood up to him, it was like I felt God inside me telling me that I was strong enough and that he was there for me. If you're dealing with abuse or alcoholism or divorce, anything like that, my biggest advice to you would be not to shut people out and just give people a chance. You can't really make it through tough times without God in your heart and without people around you to help you deal with it.
One of my scars began when I was in like 4th grade. My dad was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is a type of cancer, and even to this day he's still having to deal with tumors and infection from his cancer after several bone marrow transplants. And so that's caused a lot of tension in our family, and I don't think it's the whole reason, but a lot of the reason. This summer I started dealing with depression, and I lost interest in a lot of things that I used to love, and I didn't feel like doing anything, and I just felt numb almost. That was my major scar that I'm still dealing with today. I just felt completely alone, and no one knew what I was dealing with and how I was feeling. I didn't want to tell anyone because I didn't want anyone to judge me. That was a really big issue that I had, just feeling like I was worth anything to anyone. I started going to a counselor, which I highly recommend because they're great. Just started opening up a little bit more to my friends, and having them just know what I was going through and like know why I was acting the way I was a huge relief. And I actually started talking to my sister about it, and she really helped me. And I feel like, I did start journaling. Journaling is a good thing too. Draw close to God and He'll draw close to you. And I feel like you should never try to hide anything from God, and don't hide things from your friends, and just open up because it really, really helps you.
My father died when I was relatively young, about 26 years old, and he died suddenly, and that had a pretty big impact on me. When he died, he was on life support for a while, and it was very difficult for me to process where he was, still trying to understand this whole concept of where we go when we die and how that all works. I guess as a young adult, that was the first time that I really dealt with that seriously. My minister, as I was growing up in church, was there. He told me a couple of things that helped. One thing that really kind of helped me was he said he didn't know the answer, and it kind of reassured me that the questions that I had about life and death and where your soul goes and all that kind of was a normal question to have. The other thing he told me, which was really probably the most important thing that helped me, was he said, look, I don't know the answer, but I do know that your father was with God through his whole life. He lived his life with God. And so he knew that wherever he was with God. So that helped me a lot, and it still does today, thinking that, we don't have to wait till we die to live in God's kingdom. And that gave me a lot of assurance that even though we may not have, the ultimate answer to some of these questions, it doesn't prevent us from having that relationship with God. I think that the biggest thing for me was that I think would be beneficial. There's a lot of questions when particularly something sudden like that happens and it's unexpected. The best thing you can do is talk about it. All those things are normal, and not be afraid to share how you're feeling about it.
When I was 4 years old, my dad passed away from some sort of cancer, and it was just spread everywhere. It's really impacted my family. I know my mom's been struggling with it. My little brother especially, he's kind of turned away from God. Definitely emotional scars. I've always wondered what it would be like to have a dad, and that kind of scar is still with me today. He's not going to see me graduate from high school, graduate from college, walk me down the aisle. He's just not going to be there for that part of my life. And as great as my mom is, she can't do everything. But I know growing up, I didn't really understand it at first. So it was kind of difficult to figure out what I was supposed to do. Felt like during middle school years, I turned away from God. I focused on things that would keep me busy, keep me not focusing on what happened to my dad. And recently, I've been better about it. I've been coming to my small group, and they've really been helping me. And I think that kind of support is what's gotten me back to it, and I've been asking questions, and I understand it more. I would say if you're dealing with something as serious as death, then you really just need to stay focused on God and the positives that He can bring you. And it's gonna hurt. Something like this just doesn't go away, and it's gonna take a long time before you're ready to talk to someone even, but you just need to talk to God first and just give it all to Him, and He will really help you in your life.